Hello everyone, I'm Jane and welcome to a Christmas Silhouette Studio tutorial. Last week I was watching some crafty YouTube videos and one of my favourite artists, Vicky P, made these wonderful tea light Christmas tree toppers. That's not an easy sentence to say. Anyway, aren't they gorgeous? I'll link to her video below so that you can see her process and her tree decoration. I'm sure her trees will spark lots of decorative ideas for your own tea light tree toppers. Me, well, I shall confine myself to the part that I'm fairly competent in, drawing up a tree template that you can cut using your Silhouette Cameo or Portrait machine. Here I am in Silhouette Studio and this is my practice file that I made. This is one I did where I was just cutting out the shape to check that it worked, so I haven't put any cut out pieces for the light to shine through. And this is what I'm going to try and recreate today. Now, because it's difficult to recreate exactly something that you've done, I'm going to copy this one and take it into a new file so that I can use it as a guide. I might be doing some print and cut decoration for my tree topper, so I'm leaving my registration marks on. If you're doing a simple cut of coloured card, remember to turn them off or the Cameo will be looking for them and will give you an error if it cannot find them. Of course, you'll remember that your registration marks are on your page setup panel and on this third square, registration marks, and you can turn them off and on here. I want Snap to Grid on. I've got my line style and my fill panels open. I'm going to be using them. And let's start by drawing our first shape, which is the triangle, the base of the tree light topper. And for that, I'm going to use the polygon line tool. Got Snap to Grid on. I want a colour. Let's make it yellow, the same. And I did have some transparency on. I didn't want it to be a full colour. And for the inside triangle, I don't really need a line either, but I'll leave it on for the moment so that we can see what I'm doing. So my first shape is going to be a triangle. I'm going to start at the bottom and go across 3 big squares and up 2, 3, 4 and a half, and then into the middle to make my triangle shape, and then finish off and click. I should mention that my grid is in inches, so these big squares are inches, and I've got divisions of 8, and that will help you if you're following along with my really precise instructions of 2 squares up, 3 squares left. Yes, it's going to be that precise. It really is a little bit of trial and error. Now that I have the basic shape, I'm going to add an offset, and I can do that from here. And I want it to be flat at the corners or sharp. I'm leaving it at 0.125. And I'm going to fill it with a light blue with transparency. Again, I'm going to leave that because I need to see overlaps shortly. And click Apply. And that's our basic shape. I'll close offset, don't need that again. I'm also, for this part, going to take off Snap to Grid and select both my inner triangle and its blue offset, and use the duplicate button, and I'm going to rotate and move And the reason we've got snap to grid off is, of course, snap to grid will let you move, but in big chunks, and I don't want to move in big chunks. I didn't want to do undo either there. I want to zoom in a little so that you can see, but I still need to be able to reach my little handle here. It's moved off to the side now. So what I'm aiming for is overlapping the blues so that they're just touching like so. Can you see? If I zoom right in, you can see it's just a little bit darker where they overlap. Okay, so we've got a bit of funny business here, but we'll be tidying that up a bit later. So I think that's not bad. I think that will do, as long as it overlaps so that we can weld the shape together shortly. That will be fine. So that's our right hand triangle. So then let's draw around our center ones again, duplicate again, move it, and do our rotate again, and do exactly the same thing, rotate it and have it overlapping just a little bit like so. I think it's difficult to be, this is where I had trouble recreating it because I can't be as precise as I was or wasn't the first time. I just sort of looked at it and thought, oh, that'll do, and tried to make it work, but I think that will be all right. So we've got our 3 triangles now in the shape that you can imagine them being folded. We'll be putting score lines to make our tree topper. So now I want to select all 3 of the blue shapes by holding the shift key and clicking, and then I can use this quick weld selected shapes there, and I want to take it back so that yellow stays at the front. So I'm just going to use this centre back, and I can see how it all lines up now. And you can see I've got a couple of little bits here that I need to sort out, but we'll be doing that in a moment. Let's draw the base, and for that we're going to draw another triangle with our polygon tool, yellow again. No, I don't. I want it blue this time. And we will have a line because it's going to be cut. And I'm going to start down here. We'll be moving it. Oh, snap to grid. Always put snap to grid on. Makes drawing lines so much easier. So I want it 3 inches across because it's the base. And then I'm going to go down 2, this is 3 inches, into the middle, and then I'm just going to come down 1 little square, one of my little divisions, and then click to close. Now I can move this up to join here. And this is where it gets a little bit try it and see, because I can't give you exact measurements. I can tell you how many squares, sort of, but again, you might need to do a test run, which is what I did, to see if it fits. Let's turn off, no, let's leave snap to grid on to start with, just to get some straight lines. And the first thing I'm going to do is I've double clicked to open point editing. We're going to be doing some point editing now. And I'm just going to bring this down so that it's about 1, 2, 3, 4 squares from the corner. Add another point, 4 squares from the corner, like so. But it wants to meet up with this edge here. So let's take it over. And this is where we're probably going to now take off snap to grid, because we're not going to be exactly on grid lines. So let's just take snap to grid off and move this over like so. And just use your eye. If it looks fairly straight, it will do. It's my big motto. Now, because I know the one I did earlier does work, I'm going to click it, centre back, and bring it over underneath, just so I can have an idea. You can see it's not far off. I'm a bit wonky on me lines, but then mine was a bit odd underneath anyway, but I'm not doing too badly there at all. So let's just move that out of the way for the moment. Then to put Snap to Grid back on, double click, I'm going to add a couple points here, just to pull that out like so. Then I'm going to take Snap to Grid off, select this base and use my arrow keys to overlap it with the bottom just a little. Can you see where it's just overlapping, so that we can select that and our bigger shape, hold the shift key and click and weld, and then centre back again. And now I've got one big piece. I'm going to double click again because I've got some extra points in here that I don't really want. So let's get rid of some. So that one we don't want, and we can just move this in to make it straight. I like to tidy up the points, as you know, because the Cameo registers them and jumps around trying to meet them. So the fewer you have, the smoother cuts that you often get. So that's nice and neat there. If I hold my space bar down, I can drag my screen over and I can come up to these points here, which are, oh no, I'll tell you what, let's go and do the ones at the top first, because we've got a bit of a funny thing here. So let's do this next, and we'll get rid of these in the middle. And I'm going to put an extra one in here, and I'm going to be adding about a little, I don't know, 1/4 of an inch, I'm not very good with measurements, but about this distance again. So I'm going to take this out like so and down, because this will be the flap to seal it. So I'm just going to move that over like that, and this is going to come up like so, and this point is going to be deleted. And I'm just going to take this one to the middle above here, and we'll make that flat. Okie dokie. Now I can do this one at the bottom here, and this is going to come in at a bit of an angle, and then I'm just eyeballing it. Does it look relatively straight? Do I look like I've got the same distance from the yellow to the edge of the blue? And if it looks alright, then it will do. Make it flat. So that's my flap for sticking together. That's great. I think that will do. I'll just move that over a little bit. And then let's go and do this one here, because I've got 2 points. So I'm going to just bring that down, and let's delete this one. And we need to go to this point here so that we can tell it to be flat, and we've got a very nice straight edge there. That will do. And now I'll zoom out just a little bit. The next job is some score lines. Yeah, that's not bad. Hope this works. You might be able to do your score lines with a score line tool even. There are such things, little metal bobble things that I'm no good at. I try where possible. I do like to be able to put my score lines in with my Cameo, and for that I'm going to choose this bright blue here for the line colour. Oh, I'm going to go back. Don't have your shape selected. You want red for cutting, so let's do that. And let's take our lines off our triangles here because we don't want them cutting, not for the moment anyway. So now, with no shape selected, change my line and get my line tool, and I want a score line in between each of these and to this corner, so I'm going to start here and just drag until it looks equidistant and let go. And I'm going to do the same here. Start at the bottom there. Does it look equidistant? It'll do. And let go. And then we want one about this distance. So I'm probably going to have to eyeball this and then move it because I don't know if I'll get it right first time. I don't know, that's probably a little bit too far off. So let's move it with the arrows just a little. There we go. It's close enough. It's only so that it folds nicely. And then we need one across the bottom here, and for this I'm going to hold the shift key so I get a nice straight line. And then I need one going across the bottom flap here, so I think about the same distance again, like so. And we can object replicate mirror right for that one, and it's a little bit thicker, so I might want to just move it over like so. There we go. So that's our score lines, and the final thing we need is the hole in the middle. So let's draw a circle. This can be white. I do need it to cut, so I've changed my line back to red for cut. I'm going to hold my shift key and draw a circle about 0.5 of an inch. And again, eyeball it somewhere in the middle. Does that look about right? Possibly. Okay, there we go. And fit to window so I can have a look at it, and I can have a look at it next to this one. And I know I'm a line missing there. This is because I didn't put it in on my first one, but I know I need it. So that's not bad. I've probably not got a thick enough flap here, so I could probably pull that out of it. But everything else looks pretty good, actually. I think that's not far off, is it? So let's put that up there, and let's just pull out our flap so that it's a little bit bigger, like so. So I've got enough to stick it down with. There we go. That's our basic shape. Our yellow pieces are really our guides, and therefore telling us where to make sure we put our pieces that we want to cut out. On this one I've done stars, and I just arranged them within the yellow pieces. If you're not doing print and cut, you can leave all this together and it won't matter. However, if you are, then you need to move them. So let's have a quick sort out of how we would do that. I just get rid of my line and fill, so I've got a bit more room for the moment, because I'm going to sort of cheat and ungroup this. I actually pinched the stars from the Oh Holy Night card that I did in October. So if you want some stars and you want to know how to draw them, go and watch that video. And I can just pull these over. So if I've got them grouped there, so if we bring them to the front with this, I can put them here and arrange them in my triangle. And just, you can have as many or as few as you like, so that will do. And are these grouped? No, they're not. So let's just bring to front so that I can see them. Let's have a big one in the middle there. There. And you can see, you just place them where you think they'll look good. It's entirely up to you. And for quickness, let's duplicate that object mirror, flip horizontally, just so that it looks a little bit different. Oops. And I can rotate so that they fit, sort of. And let's ungroup so that I can move them around. In fact, let's have a bigger one at the top for a change there. Put that big one over there. Move that there. Move a little one there. Have a big one there. And let's pinch this one and stick that in. Once you have your shapes that you want to cut out, you could use circles, you can use anything really. You could go for holly berries and all sorts if you wanted. Once you have them laid out like that, you can take away your yellow pieces and group your main shape together. I'm not going to weld this because I'll lose my score lines. They'll get lost if I try and group it, and I don't want to spend ages doing everything separately. So I'm going to draw around everything and group. And for the settings, if I go to the send window, but before I go to the send window, let me get rid of some of this. These are the ones for this particular thing, so I'll keep those. But let's get rid of all this now because we don't need it. I'll keep my triangles because I might want them. Now I can rotate this to fit it on the page better. I don't know why I like to have it straight. And I can see there whether I think my circle's in the middle enough. Funnily enough, it changes your view, and I don't think that is quite in the middle, so let's give it a bit of a move. Like I say, it is a little bit of trial and error. So then I'll group all that back together. Let's just have a quick talk about the send window. Use the line option, and of course you'll choose your blade. Now I use an auto blade, but I can't actually select it on this machine because my Cameo isn't connected to it. I do the blue lines first and I score. And I've found a setting for that that works really well. I have the blade set at 1, the speed at 4, and the force also on 1. or 2 even. 2 is a little bit fierce and it is almost cutting, but 1 works really well and I get a nice solid line for scoring. So try that. Depending on your cardstock, that might be a bit different, but it's really worth experimenting with. And then of course the red line will be my cut line, and for my card that's usually a blade of 3, speed of 4, and I do have a force of about 30 for that, and I always use overcuts so that I get nice sharp corners. That's our basic tree light topper design, and you can see that once you've got it set up, you can do any number of designs, patterned papers, and if you keep your triangle shapes, you will always be able to get exactly the right size and shape and not be in danger of moving off into the other piece or section of your tree. That's why I always keep them off to the side there. I'm going to go and have a go at putting this tree together, maybe with a little bit of decoration, and I'll be back with some photos. Here at the craft desk, I've put my shape through the Cameo with the settings that I've just shown you. It isn't my first prototype cut file. This is the one that we've just drawn on screen together, and I'm starting to fold in all along the score lines. I've done the edges for where there's going to be glue, and here it is propped up, and you can see how it's all going to fit together. I used some Ranger multi-matte medium glue. A wet glue will work best because you can wiggle your edges together to get a nice fit. And once I've squeezed my little flaps together and got the glue to start holding, you can see that it fits together in this nice Christmas tree triangle shape to sit on top of our tree light. And just so you can see that it does fit together neatly, here's a view of the underside. You can see the edge along the back there and underneath, and it's not bad for just sort of having a guess at the measurements. You've already seen the finished version of the tree topper at the beginning of this video, so you know it turned out well. I used my last piece of green card and added a simple Merry Christmas banner along the bottom. And then I realised as I finished recording this video that I forgot to include making the strip of card to cover the tea light base. You might want to make a base, and if so, a rectangle 5.25 inches wide by 0.787 inches high should be enough to wrap around a tea light base. These measurements will be in the accompanying blog post, and I'll also write them below just to make sure that you've got them. I took these photos on a dark rainy morning to show you the tea light shining through the cutout stars. I've resisted the urge to edit the photographs too much because I do always like you to see a finished project as realistically as possible. As this tutorial doesn't have straightforward measurements, I am providing the tree template as a free download at my website, and you'll find the link below. Finally, a very Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to everyone. Thank you for watching my tutorials over this past year and for all your encouraging comments. I'll be back in 2019 with more Silhouette Studio video tutorials, and I look forward to seeing you then.